what if the ladder you've been climbing, like your entire life, is actually leaning against the completely wrong wall? Think about that for a second.
Oh, that's a heavy thought to start with.
It really is, right? You spend your best years, your endless energy, basically sacrificing your time and your peace of mind to reach the top rung,
Hmm.
only to realize the wall you just scaled wasn't even the one you wanted to be on.
Yeah, that realization is, well, it's devastating.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are dissecting this massive concept called the success illusion. And we're doing this based on a deeply thought-provoking dialogue from our source material between two figures, Nick and Maya.
Right. They explore this philosophical framework that they call the time traveler's perspective. It's really fascinating stuff.
It totally is. So the mission for our deep dive today is to examine why so many of us chase definitions of achievement that we didn't actually choose for ourselves.
We just adopt them.
Right. So before we get into the weeds here, I want to ask you, the listener, a very direct question. Have you ever stopped to actually examine if your definition of success is truly yours? Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because to understand why success might be an illusion, we first have to look at how we acquire a definition of it in the first place, right, Nat?
Yeah, and that's exactly where this dialogue begins.
Yeah.
I mean, Maya is grappling with this time traveler's perspective, which basically questions all the things society just accepts as absolute givens, money, work, power, success.
Big ones.
Exactly. And Maya initially takes the stance that pretty much most people take.
Okay.
She argues that success is simple. To her, it just means achieving your goals.
Right, like wealth, recognition, status,
Exactly.
the default settings, the things we all just supposedly, know we're supposed to want in life.
But Nick pushes back on her with a very simple but really piercing question. He just asks her, who taught you that?
Ooh, I love that.
Right. And Maya's response is incredibly telling. She says, nobody. Everyone knows it.
Wow, everyone knows it.
Yeah, and when a culture just quote-unquote knows something,
Yeah.
it usually means that concept has been absorbed entirely without any critical examination.
Oh, 100%. And this is where Nick introduces the blank slate theory in the text, which completely dismantles the assumption that these desires are natural or, innate.
Right, the blank slate theory points out an obvious, but frankly, frequently overlooked biological fact. No child is born wanting a corner office.
Right. They just want, like, a snack and a nap.
Exactly. No infant comes into the world with a genetic predisposition to desire a luxury car or a high social status or a six-figure salary.
So true.
You didn't know what a millionaire was when you were born. These aren't biological imperatives like hunger or sleep. They're entirely learned desires.
It is wild to really think about it that way, because I was reading through this part of the source material, and the analogy that immediately came to my mind was your smartphone.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, when you're asleep and your phone just quietly downloads a massive background software update over the Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah, and you wake up and everything is different.
Exactly. You wake up the next morning, and suddenly your phone has a totally new interface, new features, a completely different operating system running everything in the background. But you don't even remember clicking install.
Oh, that is a brilliant way to visualize the mechanics of societal conditioning.
Right.
Because we are born as this blank hardware, and then our families, our schools, our media, our peers, they all begin relentlessly pinging our brains, downloading the software update about what success looks like.
Pinging us constantly.
Constantly. And this happens in our subconscious mind, long before our conscious critical thinking mind is even developed enough to read the terms and conditions.
Yeah. I love that. We don't read the terms and conditions. We just wake up one day running this operating system, aggressively chasing prestige, and we genuinely believe it was our own idea. I really want the listener to stop and think about that. What software is currently running your career choices right now?
And we really have to look at how deep that code is written, too. Because it's not just modern media or schools installing this software. It goes back centuries. It's woven into the bedrock of human civilization.
Oh, yeah. The source goes deep into this.
It does. Nick points out to Maya that deeply held belief systems have historically reinforced these exact same cultural scripts. Like if you look historically at something like Calvinism or the prosperity gospel, you see this phenomenon where wealth began to be framed as a divine blessing.
Right, like you earned it from the universe.
Exactly. It was seen as tangible proof that you were favored by the universe or by God. And conversely, poverty was framed not just as an economic condition, but as a moral failing.
See, that is a massive historical anchor for this illusion. It completely bakes the pursuit of wealth into the very fabric of human morality.
It does.
Like, if you are rich, you are good. If you are poor, you are bad.
And Nick makes a really crucial distinction for Maya right here. He points out that these frameworks are products of an environment. They aren't eternal truths.
They're just old code.
Exactly. They are incredibly old, pervasive scripts that have been installed generation after generation. We've secularized the philosophy today, sure, but we kept the anxiety. We still treat a lack of productivity or lack of wealth as a moral deficit.
Yeah, and when Maya realizes this in the dialogue, she admits that it's profoundly uncomfortable.
I mean, I would imagine so.
Right. Realizing that your desires were implanted by a 500-year-old operating system you never even consented to is terrifying. But, and this brings up a huge question for me.
Okay, what is it?
If these definitions of success are really just arbitrary scripts, right, just downloads, why are they so incredibly hard to break away from? I mean, if it's an illusion, why does it feel so undeniably real when you get a promotion or you buy a nicer car?
Well, to understand that,
Mm.
we have to look at how society's measurements effectively hijack our evolutionary biology.
Hijack it.
Yeah. The dialogue touches on the neuroscience behind this, specifically the dopamine system. Our brains have this built-in reward circuitry, right?
Sure.
And from an evolutionary standpoint, early humans lived in small tribes. In that specific context, relative social status was literally a matter of life and death.
Because you needed the tribe to survive.
Exactly. If you were highly valued by the tribe, you got a larger share of the mammoth meat, you had shelter, you survived.
Yeah.
If you lost status, you were ostracized and you died.
So our dopamine system actually evolved to make us crave external validation and measurable progress because it kept our ancestors alive.
Precisely. Fast forward to today, and that exact same primitive circuitry is still running the show. When someone endorses you on LinkedIn, or you see your bank account number go up, your brain releases dopamine. It's mimicking that evolutionary signal of a tribe member nodding at you around a fire.
That is so wild to think about. A LinkedIn endorsement is the new mammoth meat.
Basically, yeah. Society measures visible things because they are easy to count. Wealth, social media followers, awards on a shelf, titles on a resume. And because society can easily measure these visible things, it aggressively optimizes for them.
But it completely ignores what it can't measure.
Right.
Society cannot measure the invisible things. Like, it can't put a number on a sense of meaning. It can't measure how much you love your life, your inner peace, or your wisdom.
So we end up in this really dangerous scenario where people begin optimizing their entire lives for the visible measurement rather than the invisible experience of living.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because when you lay it out like that, it makes society sound almost like this villainous entity, you
Sure.
know? Like, it's intentionally trying to trick us into running on a hamster wheel. But I kind of have to push back on that premise a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think society is intentionally malicious here. I think society is just fundamentally lazy.
Lazy.
Yeah. Because math is easy. Looking at a bank account and saying, you know, this number is bigger than that number, take zero emotional intelligence. It's just lazy math. We fall into the trap of letting that lazy math dictate our happiness.
See, I would push back on that characterization.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's laziness. It is ruthless efficiency.
Okay, how so?
Think about it. If you were trying to organize 8 billion people into a functioning global economy, you simply cannot evaluate every single individual's inner peace or spiritual fulfillment.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You need a shorthand metric to determine who gets resources, who gets promoted, who gets capital. The measurement system is highly efficient for the system itself.
Okay, fair point. It scales well for the system, but it is entirely disastrous for the individual who internalizes it. It actually reminds me of the analogy Nick uses in the dialogue, the one about students memorizing answers just to pass exams.
Oh, yes. That's a great comparison.
Right. You cram the night before, you memorize the dates, you memorize the formulas, you pass the test, and you get the A. But a week later, you have forgotten all of it.
You didn't actually learn the subject.
No, the score became more important than the learning itself.
It is basically the gamification of human existence.
And we are doing that with our lives. That's
Yeah.
the crazy part. We are trying to get a high score in wealth or status, and we are completely forgetting to actually experience the fulfillment we think the high score is supposed to give us.
Which raises a really important question, and Nick actually poses this to Maya. If people are successfully getting this high score, why are so many of the quote-unquote winners Miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, look at reality. Have wealthy people ever been depressed? Yes. Have famous people ever been lonely? Yes. Have powerful people ever been utterly miserable?
We see it constantly. I mean, there is a whole genre of modern existence where someone makes like $250,000 a year, lives in a gorgeous house, and has a full-blown panic attack every Sunday night because they dread waking up on Monday.
Exactly.
If wealth and power automatically created happiness, that Sunday night panic just wouldn't exist. So how did we get so confused about what these things are actually for?
Well, we have to clarify what the time traveler's perspective is arguing here. Nick explicitly tells Maya that this philosophy does not argue against wealth.
Right, it's not saying money is evil.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This isn't some ascetic mandate to give away all your money and go live in the woods.
Mhm.
It argues against confusing wealth with fulfillment.
That is the critical error in our operating system right there.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Nick introduces a very stark analogy, the hammer.
Oh, I love the hammer
He
analogy.
says wealth is a tool while fulfillment is an experience. A hammer is a highly effective tool that can help you build a home, but sleeping with a hammer in your bed won't make you feel at home.
That visual is just absurd, but it perfectly maps to modern human behavior. I mean, hoarding hammers is like checking your stock portfolio 6 times a day on your phone while actively ignoring your kids playing in the living room.
Yes, you are obsessing over the tool.
You are polishing the hammer, you are counting the hammers, but the quote-unquote house you were supposed to build with it, your family connection, your peace of mind is completely falling apart.
Because we have collectively forgotten the original purpose of the tools. Things like money and status were originally supposed to help us achieve something else entirely, meaning growth, connection, contribution, joy, the invisible things.
Right, the things you can't measure on a spreadsheet.
But instead, the money becomes the final goal. Rather than the tool used to facilitate a purposeful life, the status becomes the goal, rather than a byproduct of contributing to your community.
So we basically have sheds full of immaculate tools and we're standing in an empty field shivering, wondering why we feel so cold and alone.
That's a great way to put it.
Since we are clearly optimizing for the wrong metrics and we're hoarding tools instead of building a life, we desperately need an alternative. How should we actually measure a life well lived, according to this time traveler's perspective?
Well, to force Maya to confront this, Nick poses a thought experiment.
And I want to pose this exact thought experiment to you, the listener, right now. Really think about this. Imagine 2 people. Person A earns enormous wealth, has incredible status, holds a prestigious title, but hates every single day of his life.
He is stressed, miserable, and empty.
Right. Now imagine Person B. Person B earns modestly, just enough to comfortably get by, has no public status, but wakes up every single morning genuinely excited to live, deeply connected to their work and their community. Now, who is more successful?
Well, society, with its highly efficient visible metrics, points immediately to person A.
But what would you choose?
Nick points out that if we are being honest with ourselves, everyone claims they would choose person B.
But let's call it the hypocrisy here, right? We all say we want to be Person B, but look at our calendars. Look at what we sacrifice.
Our actions say otherwise.
Exactly. The vast majority of us are driving in traffic every morning, stressed out, sacrificing our health, acting entirely like we desperately want to be Person A. We are terrified of actually choosing the life of Person B because it doesn't come with those societal dopamine hits.
And that hypocrisy is what Nick calls a dangerous realization for Maya. Because once you truly see that disconnect, that your daily actions are in direct conflict with what you actually believe constitutes a good life, your priorities have to shift. It threatens the entire structure of the illusion.
So what does this all mean? I mean, if success isn't wealth, if it isn't an endgame destination or a high score on a societal test, what actually is it?
According to this dialogue, success is not a destination at all. It is a process. Yes. It is the active, ongoing process of becoming more fully yourself. It involves learning, exploring, creating, helping, and developing your potential. It is a shift away from a model of accumulation and toward a model of transformation.
And Maya asks the obvious question right there in the text. Transformation into what?
Transformation into the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And this is the huge caveat that completely breaks the old operating system, not compared to others, only compared to who you were yesterday.
Wow, that is massive, because comparison is the actual engine that drives the illusion, isn't it?
What's fascinating here is that humanity has completely conflated success with comparison. We view achievement entirely through the lens of relative deprivation.
Relative deprivation. Okay, unpack that for a second.
So you can buy a brand new, beautiful car and feel incredible about it for exactly one day, until your neighbor pulls up in a car that is twice as extensive.
Oh,
Suddenly, the exact same object that brought you joy yesterday brings you misery today, not because the car changed, but because your relative status dropped. Nick points out the fatal flaw in this logic. Comparison creates an endless race that is mathematically impossible to win.
because it's a moving target.
Always.
There is always someone richer, there's always someone younger, there is always someone more famous or more powerful or more admired. If your definition of success relies on being better than the next person, you are dooming yourself to a lifetime of running on a treadmill that just keeps increasing its speed.
You will never, ever reach the finish line.
No, you'll just eventually collapse from exhaustion.
Which leads Maya to a stunning conclusion at the very end of their exchange. She absorbs all of this, the blank slate, the dopamine traps, the hoarding of hammers, the endless treadmill, and she asks, then what if the purpose of life is not to be better than other people, but to become more fully human?
Becoming more fully human. It's so simple. But as Nick says in the dialogue, the deepest truths usually are. And he adds that this is not a question most civilizations encourage their people to ask.
Because civilizations rely on that endless race to keep the economic gears turning. I mean, if millions of people suddenly decided they were content just becoming more fully human, comparing themselves only to who they were yesterday, the entire societal structure of endless accumulation would stall.
It would completely break down.
That is why the time traveler's perspective is so revolutionary. It frees the individual from the illusion by stepping completely off the playing field.
It's just a total paradigm shift. When you strip away the evolutionary dopamine loops and the centuries-old operating systems equating wealth with morality, and the efficient but, let's be honest, soulless math of societal metrics, you are left with a choice.
Yes, you have to stop confusing the tools of life, like a bank account, with the destination of a fulfilled life.
We have to move away from a destination of accumulation and comparison and embrace a continuous process of personal transformation. So, we want to leave you with a direct challenge today, something to really chew on long after this deep dive ends. Take a hard look at the software update running your life right now.
Look at what you're optimizing for.
Right. If the success you are chasing today, with all your energy, all your stress, and all your precious time, is actually just a story someone else wrote for you centuries ago, what story would you write for yourself instead?
That's the real question.
What would you pursue tomorrow morning if you knew for an absolute fact that no one was watching, no one was comparing, and no scoreboard existed anywhere in the world? Let that question sit with you and ask yourself it's finally time to click uninstall.